Hi YouTube, Timothy Unkert here. In this video, I want to talk about catching exceptions in the Dart programming language. So let's create a program and I'll show you what I mean. So first, I'm going to import this library Dart::io. I have a video in this series about that. It's basically about taking user input. And now I'm going to create our main function. All right, so in our main function, let's try and get the user to enter an integer. So what we'll do is we'll print something like enter an integer, okay? And then to take that in, we'll say int my int equals int.parse, and then we'll do stdin standard input dot read line sync, and we're going to have the exclamation point so we can take this in even with full null safety, and we'll print something like your integer added to 10 is, and we'll do some string interpolation. We'll say my int plus 10, and we'll end the program like that. Okay, so now if we run this, let's do Dart, and I think I called this exceptions.dart. So we run it, enter an integer, I'll enter in 4. Your integer added to 10 is 14. Great, program works. Let's say, however, if I went to run this and I entered an integer and I wanted to enter a for some reason. Well, we get this big stack trace here, and we get a format exception, but our program crashes, so we can't really handle that well. So what we can do is we can create a try and on exception block. So let's keep these the same, and instead of here we're going to try this. So we're going to try this code, and let's just move this over. What we're going to do is on an exception, we're going to catch what the exception is. So we'll catch it and we'll call it E, and we'll just print it out. So we'll print out what the exception is first, okay? So if I go and I rerun this program and I enter in, let's say A again, it catches the exception, it prints it out. It's a format exception, so invalid radix-10 number at character 1. So this is not something we can use as an integer. Okay, so we can use this format exception now to create a program that will prompt the user to enter a proper integer, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first start with a while loop. So I'm going to say while true, okay? So this will always run unless we break out of it. It'll be an infinite loop, so we do have to remember to break out. What we'll do is we'll try and we'll print something like enter an integer, okay? And then we'll say int my num equals int.parse, and we'll do stdin dot readline sync, okay? And if this works, we'll break out of this loop. If we get a format exception, so on format exception is how we would write this. If we get a format exception, we're going to print you need to enter a valid integer. Or how about that is not a valid integer. Okay, and we won't break out of the loop, so we'll go back and run the loop again. So now let's try this, all right? So I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to run enter an integer. So I'm going to enter an integer 3. That would work fine. It breaks out of the loop. Now I'm going to be a goofball. Enter an integer. I'm going to enter B. Okay, that is not a valid integer. Enter an integer. Well, okay, how about C? Still not valid. Enter an integer. Let's do 6. Okay, and we break out of the loop. So we can use this try exception block of code to help us get the correct user input, all right? We can also do a stack trace, which we saw in the error. So let's do that. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we are going to do a try here, and we're going to print, let's have enter a floating point number. Okay, let's change it up a little bit, and we'll say double my double. I'm really good with these names here, right? Just joking. Double dot parse, and we'll do stdin dot readline sync. Okay, and we'll catch the exception and the stack trace. Okay, so we'll catch the exception as E and the stack trace as S, and then we'll print these out. So we'll say the exception, and we'll do some string interpolation. We'll interpolate the exception there, and then the stack trace. So this will help us find a little bit more information about the error that we're getting. Okay, so let's now try this out and run it. Okay, enter a floating point number 3.4, works all good. Enter a floating point number, I think you probably enter 3, that works all good because it treats it as 3.0. But now let's do something different. Let's say no. Okay, so now it says the exception is a format exception. It's an invalid double, no. And the stack trace, we have a double dot parse, and it tells us more information about why this is not working. Okay, so that's some pretty cool information you can get just with a few lines of code in the Dart programming language. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.